you think that redistribution of wealth should be done by the government?
I do not think redistribution of wealth should be done by the government because it has never worked. So we don't need to be doing things that have been continually proven to fail.
So you're against all redistribution of wealth, like farm subsidies, for example?
Yeah, I think that the farm subsidy industry needs to be overhauled. Agriculture department needs a hard look. And I think that energy subsidies in general also need a look.
So we shouldn't tax the American citizens, force them to pay taxes in order to provide goods and services for other people, right?
Not necessarily. There's a level of taxation that every government needs. However, I think that in the United States today, we pay too much for services and don't dedicate and prioritize the money that we need for things that are promised. The entitlement programs are a perfect example of that.
So you're in favor of some redistribution of wealth, but not what you would call excessive?
I don't think that taxing people at a normal rate is redistribution of wealth.
No, I mean, when I say redistribution of wealth, I mean taxing some citizens in order to provide goods and services for others. So forcefully taking money from some citizens in order to provide goods and services for others, like they do in the farm subsidy, where they tax all the American citizens and then they take that money and they give it to one group, the farmers. Are you against that, or you think it's okay?
I'm of the farm subsidy thing is one thing, but Michelle Bachmann had a really good point when she was running for president that everyone should be paying taxes, whether you're making $1 a year or you're making $1 billion a year. I think that it's important that everyone has skin in the game, and if you're paying taxes, then there isn't a redistribution of wealth. If everyone's paying them, then you're not taking from one and giving to the other.
Well, if one person's paying $1 and the other person's paying $100 million, then you are redistributing the wealth from one to another. But what I'm really asking you is, should the government forcefully take money through taxes from some citizens in order to give it to other people who have either not paid or paid a token amount for their goods and services, like they do for the farmers?
Right. Like I said, the farm subsidies need to be looked at and overhauled. I think there are some major problems there with waste and, like I said, redistribution. I do think that the tax code needs to be simplified. I think that the big problem with the farm subsidies and other programs is that we're not fairly, to pay your fair share, we're not fairly redistributing taxes that we pay. And so I think the tax code needs to be flattened out, quite frankly, so everyone's paying the same rate, and then that way you're not worried about redistribution of wealth.
So if everybody is paying, still you would be redistributing the money to the farmers because they give them big grants. And don't worry about the farmers. What about the money they send to the Pakistanis or to the Egyptians? That's redistribution of wealth, taxing the American citizen to send the money to foreigners. Are you against that one?
I'm not completely against anything. I think that foreign aid, just like farm subsidies, needs to be looked at. I think that a lot of the ways that we spend our tax money and the way that our taxes are, as you say, redistributed, it's a problem. I think that not enough people are paying taxes in this country. B, the government is mishandling their money, and C, it's going to all the wrong causes.
You're not completely against anything?
I'm not completely against all foreign aid. I'm not completely against all farm subsidies. I'm not completely against all energy subsidies. However, I think that they need major reforms, and some of them can quite frankly probably go away completely. But I'm not against all of that.
Now I understand. So, should the government protect all peaceful citizens against people that want to use force to take their money?
I'm not really quite sure I understand your question.
Okay. Should the government protect peaceful citizens against people that want to use force to take their money?
The government taking money from... I'm not sure I understand your question.
Are there people in our society that want to use force to take money from other people?
Yeah, I think the Occupy movement is a perfect example of that.
Okay, so there are people in our society that want to use force to take money from other people, right? So should the government protect us against those people that want to use force to take our money?
I think that the government has a role in protecting people who infringe on your private property rights, yes. Because
okay.
It's your money, it's your private property.
So is the government protecting these peaceful taxpayers when it forcefully takes their money and gives it to farmers or to foreigners in foreign aid? Are the taxpayers being protected when the government does that?
You know, I'm not sure. That's a good question. You know, maybe they're not. I don't think that the government in general has, it always makes the best decisions for taxpayers. I think that people are better at spending their money than taxpayers are. So, you know, I don't necessarily think that the government protects the people in all the right ways all the time. And that's why we have things in the Constitution that protect us as individuals.
So when somebody is forcefully taking your money in order to give it to someone else, they're not protecting you, right? They're victimizing you. Is that correct?
I'm not really. Are you talking about the government taking your money, or
anybody who is forcefully taking your money in order to give it to someone else, whether it's the government or an armed robber, is victimizing you, right?
I don't think that's a fair comparison.
Okay, so you would say that when somebody forcefully takes your money in order to give it to someone else, like the government does when it redistributes wealth, they are protecting the taxpayer.
I would not say it's an issue of protection.
Okay, but you agree that the government should protect all peaceful citizens against people that want to use force to take their money. Is the government protecting these taxpayers when it does that, when it redistributes their wealth?
I'm not really sure it's an issue of protection. I don't think it's an issue of protection.
But are they protecting them or not? That's my question.
You know, the issue of taxes isn't really a protection issue.
No, I'm not talking about all taxes. I'm talking about taxes when they tax you in order to give the money to someone else. Are they protecting you when they do that?
In that case, no, I would say they're not protecting you.
Right. So when they do the foreign aid, they're doing exactly that. They're forcefully taking your money in order to send it to the Egyptians. When they do the taxes, and they extract your money and they give it to the farmers, then they are doing exactly that. They're taking your money and forcefully and giving it to the farmers. So it's redistribution of wealth. So you should be against it whenever it happens, to whatever degree.
I think that that's a too broad of an assumption. I think things need to be looked at individually, as I said earlier. However, I also said that I think that people are taxed in general.
But you said that you were in favor of some redistribution of wealth, right?
No, I never said
well, that you weren't against everything. You weren't against anything completely. That you thought that some amount was okay.
I'm not for redistribution of wealth
at all. So then why are you in favor of some farm subsidies and some foreign aid?
Because sometimes it's in the best interest of the country, or
So then you're in favor of some redistribution of wealth.
But redistribution of wealth, to me, the definition of is taking from the very rich and giving it to people who don't.
Well, taking it from everyone.
But there's a difference between people who don't pay taxes, who are getting the money, whereas a farmer pays taxes, but they get subsidies. So
yes, they get a subsidy which is a lot more. They get a subsidy which is much larger than the taxes that they pay.
Right, I understand.
And so it is.
And in closing, because I actually have to go.
Okay.
In closing, I think that the farm subsidy problem needs to be looked at. I think the agriculture department needs a heavy overhaul. I think the foreign aid department needs a heavy overhaul. I'm not really sure we're on the same page with what the redistribution of wealth really means.
Forcefully taking money from some citizens in order to give it to others.
I think we need to have a further discussion on what that means, because I'm not sure we're on the same page on what we both think that means. But like I said, subsidies need.
What does it mean to you?
I actually have to go. But,
okay. Well, I hope it was an intellectually stimulating interview for you.
Absolutely. Yes. I'm sorry.
And
I would say that in further discussion, I would like to talk to you more about what the definition of redistribution of wealth actually is, because I think that we're on a different page.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for the interview, Kathy.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Bye bye.
Sorry, I had to cut you off.
It's all right. We can talk about it some other time. I thought it's an interesting issue, don't you think?
It is.